Would you please state your name as it's listed in the yearbook?
Ruby Solberg,
And what high school?
Langdon,
And Ruby, where are you living now?
Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Okay, and I'm going to ask you the same question I asked Carol. What are some things, after 50 years and seeing these people again, what memories are starting to rise to the surface about your high school, or, what feelings or emotions are you feeling about this class?
Well, I'm really glad to be back. It's really fun to reconnect with everyone. I've kind of kept in contact with a lot of the people over the years. While I was in high school, I sold tickets at the theater. So I knew a lot of the people around town, and so a lot of faces are really familiar, and it's really fun to see everybody again.
So you knew who was dating who?
You bet. And where they went to park.
So let's have you state your name as it's listed in your yearbook.
Okay, my name is Shirley Dumries, and I'm in Langdon High School yearbook.
Okay, and where are you living now?
Now we live in Billings, Montana. We've been there approximately 36 years.
Just tell me a little bit about what it's like to be a part of this family.
Well, our class of 58, I think, was one of the best classes. We had a great time together. And the neat thing, I think, about this class is that we still continue to get together, and there's still a closeness. There's still a connection. I haven't been able to do as much of it because I live 700 miles away. But it's so fun to hear. So many of our graduates went to Minneapolis or the Twin Cities or that area, and they tend to come back to Grand Forks, Fargo, and see each other. For instance, I think of Galen Olson, who remarried a few years ago, and so many of our high school class went over to his wedding, which I think was really neat. So, and of course, I have special friends in this class, Doris Peckin and Lynetta Brooks, who passed away in 1980, and Dory Wenzel, and all of them. We had such a good relationship. Jackie and John Knutson. I went to college with Jackie. So I have a lot of really dear friends in this class, and we've stayed friends throughout these 50 years. We stayed in touch with each other. We email each other, and so that's what I think makes the class of 1958 very special.
So let's start by stating your name as it is in the yearbook.
Okay, my name is Arvid Bowe.
And what high school did you graduate from?
LHS.
Okay, and where are you living now, Arvid?
I live in Langdon.
Okay. Now, after 50 years watching these faces walk through the door and posing for the photo that you just did, the class photo, what's it like to be a part of this group, of this family?
Well, I think it's really great to still be able to get together and to see everybody. And, everybody, you look older, but they still have the same humor and the same smile, and nothing really has changed that much, except that everybody looks a little bit older.
Could you state your name as it's listed in your yearbook?
I'm Clyde Burkholder.
And what school did you graduate from?
I went to Langdon High School and graduated in 1958.
Okay, and where are you living now?
I've lived in Lincoln, Nebraska since 1968.
And after 50 years of graduation, you see these faces come through the door again. It must bring back some memories or some emotions, or what's it like to be here at your 50-year class reunion, or what's some things that you remember about this group?
Well, it's harder to remember things back that far than it is to remember the things that have happened in the last year or in the recent reunions. And so your question is really a tough one.
Tell me a little bit about this group.
Well, I taught English for many years, and in my classes I always emphasized the importance of a hometown. And so my students would remember where they came from, and when my wife left me, I decided to come back to my hometown and apply my advice to them to myself. And so most of these people I've seen several times within the last 25 years.
Could you state your name as it's listed in the yearbook?
Doris Pekkonen. That's
all right.
Pehkonen.
What high school did you graduate from?
Langdon High School.
And where are you living now?
La Mirada, California.
Okay, so near Los Angeles?
Yeah, 20 miles south, 15 minutes from Disneyland.
So as you watch these faces walk through the door after 50 years, what's it like being a part of this group, or is there any specific memories that you can think of? Or
We went to this, how many of us were in the same class from first grade through 12? I mean, Jim and I were in the same class.
For 12 years.
So we go back a long way, a lot of us.
That was probably 12 of us.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got Jim here too. I'm gonna pull you in on this interview. So state your name as it's listed in the yearbook.
James Mountain.
All right. And where are you living now?
Long Beach, California.
So as Doris is talking, what?
Yeah, 30 minutes. I'm 30 miles from L.A.
30 miles from LA. So you guys are like neighbors. So what's it like? I mean, tell me a little bit what it's like to be a part of this group, or can you remember anything, or if you want to say hi to anybody?
Come back and see people, and they look somewhat different, but we can still recognize each other.
Some people have really changed, and some haven't. I mean that sounds stupid, but some people like Shirley. She hasn't changed not one iota. And then there's
Awesome.
Some people I don't recognize until I get close to.
Bob Seeley. Bob was always so skinny, and now it's like, wow, there's Bob. I had to look at his picture.
There's a lot of Bob.
See who that
I recognized him. But
well, I'd like to welcome you two back to your 50th class reunion. Enjoy your time.
Thank you very much.
Wouldn't miss it.
No, I'm glad I showed up.
I am glad
I'm now a platinum blonde.
So let's start off by, what is your name as it's listed in the yearbook?
Doris Wenzel. Married name is Wesselink.
Okay, and what high school did you graduate from?
I graduated from Langdon High.
Okay, and where are you living now?
I'm living in Rock Valley, Iowa. It's just south of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and north of Sioux City, Iowa. Northwest corner of Iowa.
Excellent. And now, 50 years ago, you graduated with this group. And what's it like to walk through the doors today, see these faces? What's it like to be a part of this group and this family?
Well, I was really scared to come because I didn't think I'd know anybody, but one by one, we can change what they look like to what they look like now. It's exciting to be here.
So could you state your name as it's listed in the yearbook?
Finley McLean,
And what high school did you graduate from?
Langdon Public,
Okay, and where are you living now?
Devil's Lake.
In Devil's Lake. Now, after 50 years watching these faces come walking through the door, obviously there's some memories or some emotions or a thing. What comes to mind when you look at this group? What's it like to be a part of this group?
It's very intriguing. Some people have changed immensely. Other people haven't changed at all. And Larry Wild here, who you've been talking about, I remember the night before he went to the Air Force. We happened to get him a little intoxicated. We were driving his dad's car. Somewhere around Cavalier, somebody had to throw up, so we took off from the cops. We came up Hank's Corner laying rubber all the way because the cops were behind us, got to the top of the hill, and turned south and ran out of gas. So we walked about 7 or 8 miles to Milton, got 5 gallons of gas, carried it back to the car, brought Larry home, and just kind of shoved him in the door and said, goodbye, have a good career in the Air Force. That's what I remember. And I remember the driver of the vehicle was Dennis Brous, and he was in trouble in college, so I had to hold his knee down to keep the car forward because he was shaking so bad. Yes, I have some memories.
Would you please state your name as it's listed in your yearbook?
Frances Bennett,
And which high school did you graduate from?
to the public school
Where are you living now?
in Pryor, Oklahoma.
Now, after 50 years, seeing these faces come through the door, some memories have to be bubbling to the surface. What are some of your thoughts about high school and this group, or your fond memories?
Well, I guess most of us just had a lot of fun. I used to stay in town at that time because I lived too far in the country. So we stay in town and walk through the snowbanks and do this and do that and go to school and hope the school got called off so we could have more fun.
That's awesome. Now, you were just talking about the difference in your hair length on your photo here. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I got 3 small children, had 3 small children, and was teaching school full time and teaching PE at that. So I decided it was time to go to the short haircut and keep it that way.
So let's start by what is your name as it's listed in the yearbook?
Well, it's listed in the yearbook, Oscar Olson.
Okay. And what high school did you graduate from?
Langdon High.
And where are you living now?
In Oliva, Wisconsin.
Okay. And after 50 years of graduation, coming back and seeing this group here, what's it like to be part of this family? I mean, as you're standing here taking this photo that I just watched you take, what's it like to be a part of this group?
Well, this is really great to seeing all these people and seeing what they have changed or if they haven't changed, and just kind of wishing you'd have the experiences again, I guess.
Sure. Anything in your high school that stands out as one of your favorite things to do with these guys, or
race cars, play football? Education wasn't part of it. We all had fun though.
And would you please state your name as it's listed in the yearbook?
Jerry Johnson.
Jerry Johnson. And Jerry, where are you living now?
I'm still living by Langdon on the farm that my great-grandparents homesteaded.
Excellent. And when you look back on your 50 years to the graduation of your high school years, what's the one thing that stands out, or one or two things that stand out as your favorite moment?
I don't know. We had an awful lot of good times back in the 50s. Went to a lot of dances, had a lot of fun, and I think the best thing is the fact that 50 years later, we're all still such good friends and have stayed really close.
Let's start off with, what is your name as it's listed in the yearbook?
Jolene Domries.
Okay, and what high school did you graduate from?
LHS.
Okay, and where do you live now?
Anoka, Minnesota.
Okay, and now after 50 years, I watched you taking a photo with your big class here, and after 50 years of seeing some of these faces for the first time in 50 years, what's it like to be a part of this group?
Well, it is super great. Some of them I'm not recognizing right away, but I feel the camaraderie we had in high school, and I would love to do these 50 years over again and have just as much fun, if not more. And I'm so endeared to these people that I thought maybe didn't like me so much then, but I know that we all kind of felt that way, and we really love each other now.
So state your name as it's listed in the yearbook.
In the yearbook, it's probably Robert Seeley.
Robert Seeley. And what high school?
Calls me Robert, but
it's Bob.
Yeah, it is.
What high school did you graduate from?
Langdon High School, 1958.
And where are you living now?
Live in Aurora, Colorado, which is a suburb of Denver.
Yeah, gorgeous place.
Oh yeah, the southeast side of Denver, about 6,000 feet elevation. And we spend about 8 months there, 7 or 8 months there a year, and then we spend the rest of the year in South Carolina in the wintertime.
Awesome. Now,
I gave my snow shovel away about 10 years ago and haven't had to use one since.
That's awesome. You know, as you look at these people now after 50 years of graduation, obviously there's some memories coming up. What's it like to be a part of this group?
Well, the thing is, I don't understand why everybody else got old. It doesn't make any sense to me. I look around, and these people don't look at all like me anymore. I am still just, it's been 50 years since I graduated from high school, still just barely over 25.
So you're spry yet.
Yeah, and I don't understand the rest of these people because they look like a bunch of old goats.
Awesome. And, obviously...
Including your father.
We're still going to have to figure out the name of this place where you allegedly heard people were buying beer, what gas station. So I think that's a mission this weekend, is to find out what the name of that old guy was, or that gas station.
It was in Olga. I know it was. Okay. And it was on the south side. It was a little gas station, what you would probably call now a convenience store, but nobody called it that then. It was a place where if you were old enough to hand over a couple of bucks, you could buy a 6-pack of beer. and I just can't remember the name of it or anything like that. And I never did any of this myself.
No, allegedly you heard that.
I observed this, and a bunch of guys that I hung around with did this kind of thing,
Sure.
but not me.
Of course not. Well, welcome back.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
So would you please state your name as it's listed in your yearbook?
Carol Otteson.
And what yearbook was that? What high school did you graduate?
Hi.
Langdon High. And where are you living now?
Langdon.
And when you look back 50 years and these faces walk through the door, you must have some memories popping up. I mean, what are some things about high school that you remember that you're fond of? Maybe some things that you did, or just you can be general or a specific story if you want.
I remember when I first came to Langdon High, I was scared, shy, didn't know anybody. Jerry Johnson then, she's the one that took us all into her wings and showed us the way, but she was from country school too, but she was still there for all of us. Oh, what else do I remember? I remember getting into trouble in home ec.
Can you elaborate on that?
Miss Mirror was our teacher, and we were supposed to share an egg. There were 4 of us in each department to cook, and we weren't very nice about it. Gave her a hard time, and she kicked us out of home ec for 6 weeks. I have to add this to my stories about what happened in high school. Jerry Johnson Stremick and Carol Otteson skipped school and went to the Santa Claus show. And the next morning we're back at school, and the little ding-dong bell goes off, and we get called to the office. As we walk into the office, we don't understand why we're being called into the office. Mr. Short was standing with his arms folded, and Mr. Ranke was wondering where we were yesterday. Little did we know, Mr. Short was Santa Claus.
I was just going to say, how does Santa Claus know that you skipped school?
Santa Claus was Mr. Short.
So what happened? Were you punished? What happened?
I don't remember if anything really happened to us.
To put it in a nutshell, you were called to the office by Santa Claus.
We were called to the office by, Mr. Ranke, but Santa Claus was there.
Tell us what your name is as it's listed in the yearbook.
I think it's Mary Cordy Mackart.
All right. And what high school did you graduate from?
I graduated from LHS in 1958.
Excellent. And where do you live now?
I live on a lake in northern Minnesota near Aiken. My address is Aiken, but I'm close to Brainerd. That's where I go for my groceries. Scotty?
Awesome. Okay. Now, as you watch these people come in the door 50 years after you've graduated, obviously, as you're talking with Carol here, you start to surface some memories and start to relive some stories, and you have a very good story to tell, don't you?
I have a good story to tell. Carol started it, but I have to embellish it some because it's absolutely the truth. These are the back in the days when we had home economics in school, and we had a section on cooking, a section on sewing, a section on how to be a good mother. Do you remember that, Carol? I mean, how to take care of children. You knew what our future was going to be. But anyway, we had this cooking section, and one day we were told to bake cookies. And we each had a recipe. We each had to make, chocolate chip, wasn't it, Carol? Okay. But this woman was so stingy with the ingredients, and I don't know, the school got flour and sugar and, Crisco, things like that from the government. They had government staples. And so she didn't have to be quite that stingy. But if you had a recipe to make 36 cookies, she would make you cut it down to make 4 cookies. So that's how we learned our math.
Only gave us 1 egg for each unit. There were 4 girls in a unit, and when the recipe didn't turn out, she started, wondering why.
And if you don't know how to share an egg, we made our cookie batter in a bowl like this, and then it came time to put the egg in, and she whipped it all up, and then she would give us each a teaspoon of the egg, and we would stir it like this, and then we baked our little cookies. And that woman came around and checked our cookies after they were baked and said, well, I don't think that texture is right. So, of course, we were a little bit mouthy and said, like, well, what do you expect? Cutting a recipe like that. And we were always hungry by 11 o'clock, weren't we, and got to eat that?
But then we were asked to write a paper on why we didn't like her.
It was why we didn't like home ec. Yeah, because we sassed, And so after school we went down and we had to write a 500-word paper on why we disliked home ec. And so we wrote and we wrote and we wrote about our cookie episode. And I handed mine in and she said, but Mary, this is not 500 words. So I took a book out of the library, the home ec library, and I just copied word for word until I had 500 and dropped it right in mid-sentence. And don't you know, the next day we were all called to the office and we were kicked out of school. Kicked home ec. Home ec.
So you guys were expelled from home ec. The one class that everyone's supposed to put on their roster, they can cake the
science, you see, and that was kicked out of home ec for 6 weeks. So we still got a good grade.
We still had a good grade at the end when our report cards came out.
That's the important thing. But now let me ask you this: you're kicked out of home ec for 6 weeks. What do you do during home ec time?
Well, we sat in the assembly and prepared for the rest of the day, bored as all get out, and giggling a little, Parents came to the school, and we had to meet with them in the office, and my mother, bless her heart, did make me go and apologize to Miss Meir, and I did. But at the end, when I got my grade, it was a B, and we were threatened with Fs. But she must have been a kind-hearted soul in the end and realized that she had done something ridiculously wrong.